marriage and family.
Mr. Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House Bill 3284 will establish the Texas Commission on Marriage and Family to help Texas become an even greater place to marry and raise children. The commission will meet, will discuss, will write recommendations, and will dissolve by December 31st, 2026.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Collier, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for questions?
Gentleman yield for questions.
I would be happy.
Gentleman
to
yields
yield
for
tonight.
questions.
I don't have a problem with your bill. I just want to get some clarification on what your intent is on what the commission will study.
Okay?
So the first question that I have deals with, there's a part of your bill that says that you want the commission to study and develop strategies to promote strong marriages and healthy families. That's on page 1, line 18 and 19. And then it says, identify state laws, rules, and policies that discourage Texans from marrying and raising children. So my question to you, would the fact that there are many Texans who do not earn livable wages impact their ability to have a strong marriage and healthy family?
Well, it might. It's a great question. That is certainly one of the factors, and the bill is fairly open-ended. I will say, in terms of marriage, and I was doing the short layout, not the long one. But since you've asked, the statistics are really clear in terms of, particularly as it relates to children, prospering better under two-parent household. In fact, 29% of kids in a single-family home are in poverty, only 10% of marriage. Now, is all that correlation versus causation? But it is clearly, there's so many statistics that kids are better off in a two-parent home. And so I would expect economics to be a part of it, but I think the statistics and the science, social science behind that is very clear, that whether it's poverty, whether it's higher education outcome, whether it's avoidance of the criminal justice system, those are the kind of things we want to look at.
In fact, I'm glad you mentioned the criminal justice system. With the over-policing of our communities that can lead to the separation of families also be part of the study of the strong marriages and healthy families?
Now, I suppose it could. I mean, to me, that's a couple of steps away. I think there is a lot to look at within just the family, but the bill is fairly clear on what it is asking for. I think things like that, certainly, depending on who the speaker, depending on who the lieutenant governor, and depending on who the governor appoint, and it's laid out in the bill, the kind of expertise that we're looking at, and I've got an amendment that I'm going to be accepting by Representative Dutton to add another type of person. Those 7 people, we're hoping will get a kind of a variety of input and come up with some plans. And frankly, I'm hoping that if you all, like me, think that marriage is important and certainly important to Texas, but important to Texas kids, that y'all are welcome to participate and find ways to strengthen it, because it is a concern to me. It's a concern in terms of the way it impacts kids and honestly the way it impacts adults. If you look at self-reported happiness indexes, they are almost always better for women in married homes.
Say that again?
I'm sorry?
You say that last part again?
Yeah, I mean, if you look, there is a lot of study on, and I'm talking self-reported happiness, which is a very, but there's a lot of studies that would indicate, by and large, married women report, and married men, by the way, as well, contrary to some of the, jokes out there, that they actually report a higher level of happiness than single.
Well, I'm single and I'm happy.
Well, you know what, and God bless you. It is not, yeah.
Okay, so in terms of, just to give some more guidance, you said poverty, I would just want to go over some of the things that you said that were part of the consideration. And
Well, I said this, it's really not, the consideration is laid out in the bill, but I was saying statistics that children clearly do better in married homes were much, much lower poverty rates, a lot higher educational outcomes, and are much more likely, 2 to 3 times less likely to be involved in the criminal justice system. At the end of the day, kids are a challenge. Having two people there are easier than one. It doesn't mean, my mom was a single parent. My dad died when I was 13. My mom was a single parent for a while. I have single parents, God bless them. But anybody who's had kids knows that is hard. And there are things that we can do to encourage it, not to force it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we are clear that this commission could study poverty.
Absolutely.
They could study
Absolutely.
education. They could also include criminal justice issues
I would hope
as
they
part
would.
of their, when they're contemplating what could contribute to strong marriages and healthy families.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Rodriguez Gonzalez, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman yield for some questions?
Gentleman yield for questions.
I would be happy to.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you, Representative Frank, and I appreciate, I imagine this is going to be one of your great one of your many legislative wins that you're going to have under your belt this session.
I don't know about that. I really don't think that this would be a legislative win. I think the recommendations that might inform next session might be it. It's something that really Representative Dutt and I have talked about a number of times, is the need to strengthen it, but yet we maybe hadn't been smart enough always to come up with those ideas. So we're hoping maybe getting some smart people in the room and having some focus on it will help us come up with some legislative ideas.
Yes, and I think many of us have, different questions. I think it's. I understand what you're trying to do, and the other side to that is stigmatizing families that aren't in two-parent households, and I think that that may lead some children. There's already a stigma with that, but my question to you is. When we're looking at your bill and it says raising children in stable two-parent households, two-parent households, I have friends who are same-sex two-parent households, so this includes two-parent households of any type of gender, is that correct?
I intentionally left it as two-parent households very
Yes, sir.
Intentionally.
Okay, and I appreciate that, thank you. And the composition of the commission, it says 3 members, and I understand you're going to make some changes to that, but 3 members appointed by the governor, lieutenant governor, and Speaker of the House. Those members that are going to be part of this, they're going to be individuals who are also in two-parent households with children. Is that correct?
I don't believe it is required. I don't believe in the bill that they are required to be. I think I don't think they have to be in two-parent households.
Well, and it doesn't say
the
that.
Individuals, yeah.
Right, it doesn't say that in the bill, but.
Yeah, I think child and family counselors, child development experts, community-based nonprofit organizations, published researchers on the subject of marriage, and then there is members of the clergy. And just to get the suspense, there was a desire, Representative Dutton wanted to get a member of the law with background in this. That's the amendment I'll be accepting.
Okay, and then members of the clergy, it'll be various religions, right? Because
Again,
priests don't have children. And
Again, there's a reason I put members of the clergy as fairly. I was not trying to be too prescriptive to the big 3.
Okay, thank you. Now, the duties of the commission include evaluate existing state laws, rules, and policies, and identify those that discourage Texans from marrying and raising children. Is this going to include, because, as in Texas, you just mentioned like 29% of single-parent households live in poverty, and we have many laws and many policies here in Texas that increase financial hardship on families, whether it's the failure to expand Medicaid, whether it's cutting children off of SNAP, whether it's lack of access to child care affordability. There are many policies that this body, have passed, and legislation that has passed to contribute to some of these hardships. For example, more than 40% of Texas families can't afford basic necessities.
Question.
1 in 6 households is food insecure.
Is there a question?
Yes, I'm leading to that. More than
Okay.
1.9 million families, accounting for approximately 5.1 million Texans, are at risk for hunger. So in this report, when we're gathering that information, is it going to include the information regarding policies and what we can do as a political body to remove all of those financial hardships, or to mitigate those policies that increase these financial hardships in families that many times lead to divorce and separation? Will that be part of this report?
Well, I think certainly you can't ignore the financial component, but you also have to take into consider the low tax burden, the low regulatory environment that allows people to flourish on their own, not just subsist with government handouts. That is also a part of it, and that Texas You know, there are a lot of people doing very well in Texas. There's some that aren't. But I think you have to look at both sides. You're not just going to look at government programs, although that's there because there are some marriage penalties within government programs.
Right, there are.
But-
so did
So
you,
I would expect those to be looked at.
and so what you're saying is the low tax burden or the low tax, for example, we don't have a state income tax, that might be one of the contributing factors to allowing us an individual to
To
move
succeed.
forward, to succeed as a single parent household?
Yeah, I think it allows both single and married to succeed in Texas.
Okay.
I mean, you mentioned some of the challenges or some of the things that we don't have. I'm just saying Texas is doing pretty well in a lot of areas, and there's a lot of people that are doing well. There are some people that are not doing as well.
Yeah, and so.
But
and
all
I-
of them essentially are doing better if they're in two-parent homes because two is easier economically than one. Again, I do not mean to disparage one. That is a hard thing and it's a great thing, but there are some benefits of two.
I don't disagree with you at all. There are many spaces where children. I grew up in a like you. My mother was a single mother, 7 children, and there is always a stigma with that when you're a child of a single parent household. And I want us to be very delicate and very careful in that we don't further stigmatize these children because through no fault of their own, they find themselves like we did, you and I, in
absolutely.
single parent households. So I understand the value behind this. I just want to make sure that we're sensitive to the message that we're sending, that there is still value in these single parent household families, that not necessarily that they are morally inadequate, but that possibly we are inadequate as a state because we're not maybe providing additional safeguards to really lift those families out of poverty versus kind of highlighting you guys are poor because you're in a single parent household. I think, will there be space in this report to make those recommendations where while we're highlighting the value of two-parent households, we're also ensuring that we provide the mechanisms and the safety net to lift those single parent households out of poverty and not really highlight the fact that, according to some people, they're morally inadequate?
Yeah, well, and certainly, and I hope, you know, in the way the bill was written and the words that I don't know that I'm often described as careful and thoughtful, but that we tried to focus on that, and certainly nothing to disparage single. I think looking at what to do to pull single out of their situation, I think it would be outside the scope of at least what I have contemplated in the bill right now, that it is really looking at this one particular thing. And I think we can, whether it's a separate bill or whatever, look at that from a single. I'm not trying to be. Yeah, I do think this is just one of those things, and really, Chairman Dutton and I have been talking about it, and then we kind of look up, and same with, some other areas, but just wanted to look at this area, and I hope people don't overread into it. It is pretty straightforward. It's not trying to. I know we have a lot of fights on the floor. That wasn't what this bill was about.
Another question I had, there's been conversations in the past and different individuals and different conservative organizations wanting to eliminate no-fault marriages, and that's something that as a family lawyer and the family bar is really concerned about. This is not kind of a backdoor way to really highlight the fact that people should stay in marriages and maybe eliminate policies that are friendly to, for example, women that are maybe in a financial stranglehold in a marriage?
No, I mean, there is nothing, certainly, and I don't believe there's anything in the words. There's nothing in my desire in putting it there that I want somebody. I mean, do I think acknowledging on both sides the permanence of a marriage relationship at its best is a good thing? Absolutely. Do I think I want people trapped in that? And it's certainly not my part of it. In fact, I can tell you the family law part of it was not a part of my thought at all. But when it was brought to me and and different people were afraid of that, I was more than happy to add that on there just to give that perspective.
Okay, and so last question, the studies statistically, you just mentioned the statistics that children in two-parent households are less likely to live in poverty, they have a greater income, higher education level. You recall just mentioning all of the studies that you just talked about?
what?
or the information, the stats?
Yes, I have a fair amount. I have stacks of stats. I can read some of them, and really the initial quote I gave was from the National Institute of Health, at the U.S. level, that said children fare better with two-parent households, and literally in a quote it says society should make every effort to support healthy marriages. That was, from the federal government, and again, that's not looking down on a single parent. In fact, we all ought to, to me, the more healthy marriages you have, the more you can help single parents.
And so, we already know that information. It's, in fact, true according to much data, yet we're wanting to do a separate study here to identify policies and legislation that we've passed in Texas that discourage people from marrying and raising children.
I'm
so
sorry.
You just talked about the benefits of having children in a two-parent household, but what we're trying to do in this report or in this study is to identify state laws, rules, and policies that discourage Texans from marrying and raising children. That's what it says on page 1.
Yes, that you're trying to look at things that might discourage, whether that is marriage penalties or, and we also have some things that are out there that are already supposed to be working to strengthen families. There's different state funded programs that are already out there, and we are wanting those looked at as well to see whether the money is being spent. It's one thing to allocate money to improve something. It's another thing to actually improve it.
Right. And there have been recent articles, for example, we talked a little bit about child care, and that many families are struggling in Texas. We had the shortage of child care, and we don't have a child care tax credit, for example. Instead of giving $1 billion in vouchers, we could have used $1 billion in child care tax credits to help working families so that they could stay united. And many times families end up in divorce because of financial difficulties. So this bill would allow us to explore that. Instead of putting money over here for a voucher program, we could really help working families stay united and stay married by providing them child care tax credits so that both mom and dad can go to work and live happily ever after raising their children. This will allow us to really explore some of those policies.
I think the committee will do, hopefully, what the duties are as outlined here, and that certainly could be part of it.
And final question, how is this going to help working families in Texas?
I think working families in Texas tend to do better if you have both. There's a shared, not separation of duty, but there's shared duties when you have two in the home.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I believe there is an amendment.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Plessy, for what purpose?
does the gentleman yield for some questions?
Gentlemen, yield for questions?
I'd be happy to.
Gentlemen, yield.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm sorry, I just had the opportunity to start reading your bill. I hadn't seen it before today.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so I just had a couple of questions, though, because I don't see any reference in your bill to common law marriage. Could you clarify how this bill would recognize common law marriage or change common law marriage laws in Texas?
I might phone a friend to my legal counsel here.
This wasn't supposed to be a trick question. I'm sorry.
No. It's just I'm not as familiar with the common law marriage, but it just talks about marriage. It just talks about marriage in general. I'm trying to.
So under current common law marriage, couples can establish common law by meeting certain conditions without a formal ceremony. So my concern is, would this bill impact that, or does this bill in any way make those marriages less?
This bill is literally a commission to study and recommend and then disband. It will last, 16 months, 7 people appointed by the governor, lieutenant governor, and speaker that will look at the things that we've asked them to look at, make recommendations, and then be gone. And then we can choose to take some of those up or not, but it doesn't do anything to change law at all.
So I'm specifically looking at Section 4A. It says, study and develop strategies to promote strong marriages and healthy families. Will there be a conversation in there about common law marriage or parents that are common law married?
I am not going to probably be one of the 7 people chosen, so I'm not sure what they're going to be discussing.
Okay. That's just a concern to me because, you know, a lot of our families that are low income.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Plessa, for what purpose?
can I motion for some extra time, please?
Members, you've heard the motion. Is there objection? There is objection. Record vote has been requested. Members, the motion is to extend time. The record vote has been requested. Clerk to ring the bell. Show Mr. Hunter voting aye.
Extend time. This is a motion to extend.
Show Ms. Leah Wilson voting nay. Have all members voted? Show Mr. Dutton voting aye. All members voted. There being 73 ayes, 57 nays. The gentleman's time is extended.
And common law marriage is a marriage in Texas. There's nothing to my.
I'm sorry, I can't. There's a lot of commotion. I can't hear.
Members, please take your conversations outside the rails.
Common law marriage is a valid marriage in Texas.
I
So
just want to make sure
nothing
that those
changes.
ideals will still be promoted. There are a lot of families that can't afford to have a ceremony, and so they rely on common law marriage
Okay.
laws in our state.
It's a very, very good point.
Thank you so much. So I have one last question. I've laid out multiple bills in your committee. I've heard you talk about evidence-based language in legislation before. You have that language in your bill. Texas must promote evidence-based pathways. Can you explain to me what you mean by that and why it's in your bill?
I might have to take that out.
Can I carry
thank
the
you.
amendment to take it out?
You might be able to. I think sometimes it means more than it does. I was trying to, yeah. So I will look at that.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Mr. Speaker, we do have an amendment.
Following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Dutton.
Chair recognizes Mr. Dutton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, one profession that gets to see, at least in most cases, where marriages have failed and become difficult and they get to experience most of the problems related to them, happen to be those lawyers who are board certified in family law. And so what this amendment does is simply adds one member of the bar, of the state bar, who is board certified in family law, to be on that commission, because I think they'll bring a perspective that probably not a lot of people have. And I believe it's acceptable to the author.
Representative Dutton sends up an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? Chair hears none, so ordered. So adopted.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak for, on, or against the bill? Chair recognizes Mr. Harrison to speak against the bill.
Thank you. I very much appreciate the intent of the bill author here, and he's trying to do a good thing. And I support marriage, and I support family as much as just about anybody. What I don't support, however, are new government commissions, which is what this bill creates. And in fact, when I was the chief of staff at HHS under President Trump during his first term, I was very proud to have worked with him in the White House to create an executive order that slashed countless advisory commissions and councils. So this is going the wrong way, and I will respectfully be opposing this. This body needs to stop growing government. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Frank to speak in favor of the bill.
I appreciate that comment. However, this lasts and it expires in less than 2 years. This is not growing government or a permanent thing. It is a group of 7 people that get together, make recommendations to us. We can take them or not take them, and I would appreciate your support. I move passage.
Members, the question occurs on passage to engrossment of House Bill 3284. It's the record vote. Clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Dutton voting aye. Show Mr. Frank voting aye. Show Ms. Thompson voting aye. Show Mr. Hunter voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 102 ayes and 36 nays, House Bill 3284 is passed to engrossment.